Hello, this is going to be a really quick introduction to Piskelapp, which can be found on piskelapp.com, and they also have a little program you can download. This program is designed to create little animated sprites, but I also like to use it for introducing animation. It operates very similar to something like Microsoft Paint in that you can make different types of shapes. You've got an eraser, you've got a pen tool, you've got a mirrored tool so you can do stuff with symmetry. You've got a hand tool so you can move around the screen. You've got a shape selection thing so you can select different areas. We can select whole loads of pixels, and then if we hold down shift we can move them around and click away and then it's gone. Our frames run down here, so every time we can duplicate frames by clicking this one, or we can add new blank frames here. So at the moment, if you look at the top right hand side of the screen, this is a preview of what it's animating. So at the moment it's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got 4 frames with exactly the same in it and then one blank one. So I'm just going to go to frame 1 and I'm going to just paint in some red. So to navigate between these frames, the easiest thing to do is use your arrow keys. So arrow key up goes to frame 1, and then as you press it down it will keep going to the different frames. So just to show you, so this one's red, then go on to the next frame and then move it along, then the next frame put it down here, then the next frame put it there. Now you should see here that it's now cycling through all of these from beginning to end. I can change the frame rate here, I can make it really slow so it's 2 frames a second, or I can take it right up to 24 frames a second, which is more or less the same as TV. We've got a thing called onion skin, which you can see working here. If we turn it off, it just becomes a normal picture. But if we turn it on, can you see down here? It shows you the previous frame, and this one shows the previous frame here. And it's just really good to be able to trace through and see what you're doing. So let's jump into it. I'm going to show you a high dive animation that we usually do as a starter piece. First of all, let me just restart this. I'm just going to refresh this page. As default, it's very low resolution. We can change that. If we come over to these options on the right hand side, we can click resize. At the moment it's 32 pixels across by 32 pixels high. So we can change it to maybe 200 by 200 and click resize. And now if you can see, the resolution's a lot higher so you can get a lot more detail. The only downside with doing this is you may get a little red warning in this bottom corner because the program isn't really designed to do this high resolution animation, but you can get away with it if you're just using 10 or 15 frames or something. So anyway, I'm just going to refresh it again, reload it, and I've prepared a background picture, so we need to find that. So we're going to go to import, which is this last one, click on that, and we're going to go, the image I've saved I think is a bitmap image, so I'm going to click on browse images. This should open up my computer, and I've got one here. Now it's a PNG file called picture to import. This is something I've previously drawn on the program, so I'm going to click it, press open. It'll give me some options here. I just want to import it as a single image, so that's fine. I'm going to click import, and it says this will replace your current animation. Are you sure? Yes, I am sure. So we've got this up, and what we're going to do is we're going to put a diving board here, and we're going to have a person jumping into the water here and then splashing. So we need to logically break this down. First of all, we're going to animate the diving board springing on its own. So I'm going to duplicate this frame about 10 times because I want it to run for 10 different steps. So I'm going to come up here, and these are the frames. So I'm going to click on duplicate this frame. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, now I can start drawing my diving board on here if I want, but if I make a mistake, I'll show you actually. If I do this and then make a mistake and want to erase it, I can erase back into it, but it erases the background as well. So we don't really want that. So I'm going to undo this twice by going Control Z. And what we'll do, we'll make a new layer, so it's like putting a sheet of glass over it, and all you're doing then is painting on the glass and erasing from the glass. So I've got a layers panel here. I'm just going to click the plus, And if you can see, it's greyed out the background, so it shows that you're on a new layer. And we're going to make a diving board. So I'm going to go to the stroke tool, and with the stroke tool it basically pulls out a straight line and you can let go of it. So make sure I'm on frame 1. I'm going to click up here. I'm going to pull out a diving board like this. Now I want this diving board to, someone's going to be bouncing on it and then jumping off. So frame 1's going to look like this. Frame 2 is going to be coming down just a little bit, because if you imagine the person about to take a leap. Frame 3 we can have down to there. Frame 4 and frame 5. So this is really getting ready to jump, so the person will be crouched here, and the next frame they're going to jump off. So what's going to happen to this, it's going to sort of do a spring upwards. So the next frame I'm going to have it going all the way to the top here, and then over the next few frames I'll have it settle down back to its midpoint. And the important thing with this animation is that the last frame you do, you want this diving board to be exactly horizontal again. So this is the last frame going back to being horizontal. Okay, let's just preview this. So I'm going to click this and it'll open up the preview in a pop-up. And I'll just make this larger. So there you go. It does like a pinging thing. The problem is though, by the time we animate the guy getting down to about here, the animation's finished. So what we need to do is we need to extend the animation by another 15 frames or so, which is no problem to do. I'm going to close this. I'm going to go on to my last frame again, and we're just going to hit that duplicate frame. So it's going to copy this last frame, including this diving board now. Because that just saves us animating it a bunch more times. So now we can check the animation again, open it up, and what should have happened is we get the spring and then a pause, and that pause should be long enough for the person to come down here and then do a splash. So that's the first part of the animation. Second point is, well, first of all, go right up to the start frame again. We need to draw a person on here who's going to jump off. Now I could start off, I mean with this we usually just do like a little very simple man or stick man or something. Go onto the pen tool. So we could draw someone here getting ready to dive. But if we draw it every single frame, which we will need to, how do you know if this animation is going to be smooth and show the right type of acceleration? Well, we don't, so there's no point in wasting our time drawing it out painstakingly. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to put a little marker on, and my marker will be the person's head. So I'm actually making a larger pixel here. And I'm going to say, well, that's the first position of his head. In fact, let's do a larger one than that. Okay, so that's the person's head. We can animate this one dot to represent the whole body, and if this dot looks like it's falling perfectly fine, we know we can add the person in then. So it's just time saving, it's just a sensible way of doing it. So this is frame 1, so this person's going to be facing this way, and he's going to be going down with the board like that, and he's going to be crouching, so his head is going to get a lot closer to the bottom of the board. You'll see this when we put the person in, because we're going to really exaggerate this. So the important part of cartoons is that you do exaggerate movement. Okay, next frame. So this one is the one with the board springing back up. So I'm going to put him here, and he's going to come up like this into the air, and then gravity's going to take over. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make the distance between these frames a lot less. Because when you do that and you change to your next frame, if you have less of a distance, it's slowing things down, and if you have a greater distance, it speeds things up. So as gravity takes over now, this person's going to come rocketing down here, and this will show the acceleration, which is another important part of animation. So I'm going to open up this in a pop-up just to show you where we're up to. So it jumps, slows down near the top, and then speeds up as it splashes to the bottom. And all we really need to do now is go back to the top frame, because we're happy with it, and draw the person in. So what I'll do, I'm going to pause this, and then I'm going to come back with the person drawn in. Okay, I'm back again. I've just drawn this person in. I've kept it really simple. It can almost be a stick person, but it's completely up to you how much detail you want to go in. Here we can see this onion skin effect, so we can really see where it is to trace it. If we want to turn that off, just press the onion. Right, I just wanted to pay your attention towards these arms. So stretching the arms out, and this person's really sort of scrunching up the body. I can always make the body a little bit bigger, and I can erase bits out without affecting the background. And then it springs. And if you watch the arms, they're more or less by the person's side there, and as I come up with each frame, I lift them ever so slightly higher as this person tilts round. This is almost like going in an S shape. And then obviously we start to plummet down. As you can see, the distance is getting much greater each time. In fact, I'm going to make it faster because it goes dirt, 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 and then it sort of slows down a bit there. So I'm going to find this frame. I'm just using those arrow keys up and down to go through the frames again. I'm actually going to delete this one. So now let's see now. We'll go 1, 2, right, that really shows acceleration. So let's look at the animation. Yeah, so it slows down at the top of the jump and then really speeds back up. So now we can colour this. We can do whatever we want with it, really. I'm going to just colour the person's body in. So I'm going to take a paint bucket tool. I'm going to just find a nice colour. Let's go with this. Now I can just... Oh, didn't get the right colour there. That's it. So I'm just going through every frame, clicking the flood fill. Now if you don't have a perfectly enclosed space, what happens is the flood fill leaks out into the rest of the page. So let's see how good my hoop drawing is. Miss that one. So you can go back in, you could add skin tones, you could do, you could get it as good as you want. It's just, if we start off simply, we can make it more complicated afterwards, but we need to make sure that the motion's correct. Yeah, that's pretty good. So it's a nice bright top, so it can really stand out and you can follow it down. So what I'm going to do now is we've got the splash to come in. Now before I do that, I'm going to merge this because I'm quite happy with it. I don't think I need to do any more deleting. So I'm going to come over here to the layers, and if we go to this one, merge with layer below, if I click that, it'll bring it all into one frame again, and we can see the background, and it's a lot nicer and brighter. Of course, the problem with that is if you rub anything out, it will rub out the background, so only merge it when you're happy with getting to a certain stage. So I'm going to do a splash. So I'm going to come down frame by frame, and now when I'm doing a splash, I'm going to put like a bit of a dot, and I sort of do it following every single dot of the splash, which sounds ridiculous, but it doesn't actually take that long. So you want pieces coming off like this, and you want them all different speeds. So I'm going to put like a big splash coming up here, and then it sort of breaks up and dissipates into nothing. I'm going to go back up again. I'm just going to keep doing this until we've got like a really convincing sort of motion on the splash. I mean, you could have a bit of water that goes way off because, when you splash it doesn't all come out at the exact same rate. And you can then colour this different ways if you want. You can add some blue into it. You can add pixels which are a lot thinner and finer. But this is just to show the general concept of it. Right, so let's have a look at this pop-up again. Yeah, it's not too bad. Perhaps could add a few more frames at the end so it doesn't stop the animation too quickly. Right, but let's say we're okay with that. What I often do with this animation as well is you could put some secondary animation in it just to give the scene a bit more life. I think I've got time just to quickly do this. Stick some little birdies in. So I'm just doing V's and N's. Oh, and if you want, you could do a line. So wings up, wings midpoint, wings down. Oh, I'm going to get it getting spooked by the guy and flying off. Perhaps getting closer to us. So that's why I'm making the things a lot quicker. Let's see if that works. Should do. It's very simple line drawing, but it's the motion that gives it the effect of being real. Yeah, that's not too bad. You should add maybe 2 or 3 more birds, because you don't really get many birds flying around on their own. And what I also do as well is I put a little flag on here and animate that. So all I do is literally draw the flag for every single frame, trying to get it the same. But that'll never happen because you can never trace over the same thing perfectly, especially when you're using a mouse. So when you play it back, it sort of flutters a bit like a flag. So the only thing we need to do now, if we're happy with it, we can save it first of all. So the best way to save it I've found is go to save here. You can save it on the Piskelapp website, but I prefer to save it to my computer so I can then move it and put it any places. So I'm going to call it. So I want to save it offline as file, so it needs to be saved as a .piskel file. If I just click this, it will just start downloading here, and it will just land wherever your downloads usually land. Now, if you were to go onto your downloads and just double click it, it's not going to open it because there's no program on your desktop which will allow that. What you have to do is you have to come into Piskelapp, come here and go to import, and we can go load.piskel file, and you'd click on here and load it up. In fact, let's see if I've got another one that I can just load up just to show you. So I'm going to go to Kick and Go Football, and we should have a Piskel file here. Football animation, okay? So let's say we're coming in, loading it in, click open. I want to replace this with this one. And now I've got this second animation, and if you can see in the top right hand corner, it's just someone kicking a football. And so that's how to get your animation saved, but you want to be able to share it with people. So you need to save it as something that can be played on any website, and the easiest thing to save it as is a GIF. So I'm going to go into export. So export is the one that looks like a mountain. Click on that. We want it as a GIF file. Do we want it to play once or loop repeatedly? Most of the time you leave it to loop repeatedly. We can change the scale of it, so I can make the scale a lot larger. Maybe, well, let's do like 6 times the scale. Now I'm going to click download. What it'll do is it'll put this animation together as a GIF. It's doing the progress there, and then in a second it should download. Okay, and I'm going to click this, show in Finder. I'm on a Mac, you see, so I need to find out where it is. So here it is. I'm going to right click this. I'm going to go open with Google Chrome. And what it should do, yeah, it's made a new tab for me, and here you go, I've got this nice GIF, so I can drag that and or right click it and share it with people, do whatever I want. So that's a really quick sort of rundown of Piskel. Now you can obviously start your own animations off by making your own backgrounds and stuff. So I'm going to refresh this page. Just be careful of the background size. So I'm going to resize this one. I'm going to do it by 100 wide by, no, let's do it 200 wide by 50 high. So it's going to be like a wide screen. Click resize. Well, it's a really wide screen. But yeah, there's nothing to stop you from drawing a picture here. Just put a sky color in. You can use a few different colors, but the more colors you use, the more it's going to slow down the animation and stuff. So you could say, right, well, I want this as my background. So you could always save this just as its own little GIF. So we can export it, and we can change it to a PNG. And selected frame export. Just download that. And there you go. So that's your PNG. So you can work on the background a few times, then load it in and start to turn this into an animation. So by duplicating these frames and then working on top. So that's it.